Welcome, everyone. And today is an exciting day for especially lunchtime in Vancouver here. It's the sunshine after the pouring rain, and everybody love it. So I'm really excited here to introduce my friend and also somebody I have so much respect as a local business leader, Elaine. And you guys probably already checked out her stories online when you see our postings for this particular events. We're quite honored to have her here to share her stories. Of course, I'm going to ask some questions. So this is a general itinerary, but we're just like a fireside chat, so it's not so much. First of all, I just like to introduce what is a vision to reality, and Elaine also helping in this organization because she buying our visions to helping many people coming to BC wants to start their own business and taking the financial responsibility in their own hand and making their own future and building a better life here. As she and myself, we both moved to Canada. She came here at 4 years old. I came here at 26. So both of us also consider us immigrant or newcomers, but of course living here many, many years already. So we're hoping to pass down these kind of a vision, and the immigration or immigrant newcomers spirit always coincide with many entrepreneur mindset because we wanted to build something. We're more have those kind of persistent, consistent, have a dream, right? So all those ones actually is the same we try to promote in this organization as a Vision to Reality Foundation. So anybody want to get hold with us, very easy, just either scan this QR code or just www.v2rf.org. And our mission and visions and our values, you can all see them on our website. And our mission basically just wanted to help people to start their own entrepreneur journey. And our vision is we truly believe every single person has what it takes. If you want to just control your own future in your own hand in many ways. So here, I'd like to introduce Elaine, and I'm thinking there's no better ways to introduce her to show one of the quick videos about who she is and what's happening to her life. In that way, I think we'll say way better.
We have with us the 2014 Mompreneur of the Year, Elaine Tamkomo. Welcome.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here.
Elaine, we all recognize you from Dragon's Den. That's when you had 5 dragons fighting over this great idea of yours, the Easy Daisies product, and you're all about keeping families organized and on track.
Hello, dragons. My name is Elaine Como, and I'm from Maple Ridge, British Columbia. And I'm here to tell you about my award-winning products called Easy Daisies.
Developed by a teacher and a mom of 3 to allow kids to see what's next on their daily schedule. Keeps them organized.
There must be a market for such a product. And so I decided that I would create this product to help kids have easier days, and that's how it's called Easy Daisies.
She's a great spokesperson.
I mean, you're a dream for selling it. I mean, it's just oozing out of you.
Easy Daisies makes the kids feel really comfortable with their whole day. When we talk smart design, Easy Daisies is easily
I love this. Well, hey, listen, you come at us with credibility from 2 standpoints. You're a mom and you're a school teacher.
Easy Daisies is a great tool for parents of children with special needs.
So we're keeping it easy.
Kids get to move the magnets from the to-do side to the done side, and that simple action provides the child with a sense of accomplishment and confidence.
And where do you get this stuff?
You can get this at Staples and any, most local educational and toy stores.
Okay.
You can find Easy Daisies at Barnes & Noble.
But I think we're going to go with Mr. Jim's offer and Mr. Kevin's offer.
Outstanding.
Good for you. Good for you.
This is great.
Perfect.
And I like
Yeah.
this too.
Isn't that great?
Cool.
Yeah, and the accomplishment that they feel with
Yep,
moving
makes it
those
feel
magnets
fun.
over.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
Why didn't they have these things when my kids were little?
This is wonderful because many people already know this story 10 years ago or 9 years ago from when you start. But today I have some hard questions or wanted to know some behind the curtain,
Yeah,
what truly happened. And because in the TVs or the news, postings are always quite glamorous. But as a mom with 3 young children at the time, 10 years ago, and even right before this, we were talking about you still have a kid in high schools right now, and I know how much work as a mom owning a business and then have 3 children. I have a one. I respect any mom that has more than one child. So basically, I just love you to give a quick maybe summaries and how this idea come about. You were a elementary school teacher.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say, Winnie, thank you so much to you and your team for having me. Vision to Reality is an incredible foundation, and I'm just honored to be here. So thank you. Thank you so much. I apologize. I do have a cough that I'm shaking off for fighting for 2 weeks. I was a school teacher, and I just fall in love with my class every year. I love teaching so much. I love working with children. And I knew that so much was working against children when 1 in 4 come into the classroom with anxiety, 1 in 5 with learning disabilities and mental health issues, and the list goes on. And so I also knew that children are primary visual learners. And if anything can help them with alleviating anxiety and helping them with event transitions is showing them on a visual schedule what to do. And so that is how I moved I would have 22 6-year-olds or 8-year-olds, and to move them from my classroom to the library to the gym without a meltdown or a tantrum. And so parents started asking me to help their kids at home just get out the door faster in the morning. And so I did. They asked me to draw these visual schedules, and I would custom make each family their own. And I made them for free for about 8 years because I just love my kids. And of course, I'm going to do anything to help them. My grade 2 class sang at my wedding. I just love my kids. And so I made these for free. And then I thought, I've been making these for a long time by parent demand. Maybe there's a product here. So I did the research because usually if there's a good idea, it might exist already. So I did the research to discover if it existed. And there wasn't a product out there that was a visual schedule for kids at home. And so I saved up by tutoring and selling crafts and raised that first $1,400 I needed to launch my first product. And it happened just a few days after my 3rd baby was born, and I launched Easy Daisies. It's called Easy Daisies because the goal is to help kids have easier days. And then it became the #1 back-to-school must-have in Parents Magazine, and the stores started to call. And Winnie, you were absolutely right. Things look like, oh, it's so easy. It looks successful. It's hard. It is a hard journey. It's a continual journey. And I remember when I first started just cold calling stores, just picking up the phone and calling or emailing. And I thought there must be an easier way to do this. Like instead of me reaching out and finding them, they must all go somewhere. And so I, as we all know, entrepreneurs, we have to be very resourceful. And so I Googled and I discovered there was a trade show in Toronto called the Canadian Toy Show, where wholesalers or retailers would go gather together and meet there. And I thought, well, how am I going to afford this? Because I have to fly to Toronto, I have to stay in Toronto, and then I have to pay for a booth. I can't afford these $5,000 booth, $10,000 booths. So being an entrepreneur, we have to be resourceful. And I discovered something called the Inventor's Corner, which was a $500 table. Still $500. Still have to fly there. So you must look at all of the things and discover, okay, is it going to be a great return on investment? So then I stayed at an uncle's house, still paid $500 for the table. But then you need to prepare, right? You have to say, well, how am I going to protect my IP, my intellectual property? What should I do? So that first trade show was so many great lessons for me. And it made me think about, well, how will I protect my business? So you look at trademarks and you think, okay, there are so many types of trademarks in different countries. So because I had very limited funds, I knew that my greatest competitor was going to be American. And so I couldn't afford to buy a trademark in Canada and the US. So I chose just the US. That is how I started. And so I saved up and paid for a trademark for Easy Daisy's registered trademark for the US, so that it's very important. Even the trade show, who was so kind, saying, make sure you protect your intellectual property, because there are going to be the big guns there who have manufacturing set, and they too walk the floors to see what's new and coming, and because they can create something that easily with everything in place. So I, at that point, also paid for a provisional patent, and that is the most affordable patent, and it's just showing that I have locked in to protect my product. And then you can decide at that point too. And patents is a whole different conversation, a whole different topic that we could talk about another time, but finding ways to make sure that you are protecting your business. And so we went there and started selling at this trade show that was 4 days long. Pardon me. And it was there that retailer said, "Oh, Elaine, can you make me 2,000 units?" And I didn't have the heart to tell them that it took me a whole year to make 2,000 off my kitchen table. But of course I said, "For sure, yes, I can. It might take me a little bit of time, but yes." And then I remember she took me by the hand. She's like, "Elaine, you need to get off your kitchen table and go on a show called Dragon's Den." And I thought, oh dear, I'm like, have you ever seen that show? Because it's not called The Nice People Show. And so when we got home back to Vancouver, my husband must have been Googling, and he was on the computer. He turned to me and he said, "Elaine, Dragon's Den is here on Saturday." And it was Thursday at this point. And I thought, well, it's a now or never moment. And it was just the nationwide auditions. And we went. I took my 7-year-old, my oldest, and my husband, and we went. And I had never been so nervous. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to be like American Idol, where you have to line up around the block. And it was not like that at all. I think I was 7th to arrive in this room. And people kept pouring in, but there was no one there from CBC. So I went to school teacher mode, found a scrap piece of paper on the floor, took it and wrote numbers and ripped it up and gave it out. Everybody thought I worked for CBC, and I told them, oh no, I'm just number 7. And so the producers arrived, and they said that they just started their 6 weeks of nationwide auditions, and they would only call back anyone who's invited to the taping of the show at the end of 6 weeks. And so after 6 weeks, we did get that phone call. And I remember the original pitch standing in front of the producers. I was so incredibly nervous, but I thought, okay, I could do this. I just talked about Easy Daisies for 4 days at a trade show, but I knew I had to nail it in 40 seconds. And I was ready to speak. And I think by my second sentence, it cut me off and bombarded me with all these questions like, aren't you too small? What were your sales last year? And so on and so on. And I thought, oh, I totally failed, totally bombed this. And my husband reminded me that I answered every single question. And then it was amazing to get that phone call 6 weeks later. And I don't know if you want me to go into what that was like pitching on the Den. You let me know, Winnie. I can go on and on. I talk way too much.
Because I believe many people was really curious, including myself. I think curious how that, because I watched the Dragon Den on TV and for many, many episodes before, because I know how grueling, those guys can ask the questions really hard. And also they have those kind of poker face.
Yeah.
It's quite scary. And I mean, even you are a teacher, you speak in front of people all the time. But no matter what, there are people right? They're kids. And those people, we have no idea who they are. And they're also big guns. They're maybe super rich, or maybe they they represent a big investment, behind them. And how can we, or how can a normal person to even take on that kind of pressure?
Yes.
And for me, I can't even imagine. So this is why I truly like to know how you
I can share
get
what that,
there, how you prepare yourself, just say pump yourself
absolutely.
up, like to
Yeah.
really say something and not
Well, it's
faint it.
crazy. I know it is absolutely crazy because when we went, my children were 2.5 years old, 4.5, and 7.5 years old. And I remember when the producer called and she's like, "Bring the kids." And I thought, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, Elaine," she goes, "It's a TV show, not a boardroom." But you know what? It was a boardroom. Indeed. Just that it was scarier because it was live on television. It's one take. There's no cuts, redos. You just do it all in one take. And so I remember trying to prepare for this, even preparing my children. I got my kids to watch Dragon's Den every day because I didn't want them to be scared. I didn't want them to be scared of these people. They knew every single dragon by name. They've seen them and they know them. And so like throwing in children into a boardroom meeting where you're pitching is just like it just made it 100 times worse because they're so unpredictable. And so I had to prepare them, and so they knew each person by name, and so they weren't so scary, even though I was absolutely terrified. And so I knew that I had to get their interest literally in that first 30, 40 seconds. And I also was hoping that we'd pitch early in the day because if they're sitting there all day long, they're probably like tired, frustrated, a little probably more short with their patience. So we were really lucky to know that we were pitching at 6:30 in the morning, live television. Live one take recording. Sorry, it's pre-recorded. But 6:30 a.m. Toronto time was 3:30 in the morning for my children and my family. So if you ever watch our original episode, they are in their pajamas. Yes, I said that right. They were in their pajamas because that was one less battle for mom to have to deal with. I didn't want to have to change their clothes. They looked adorable. It was fine, and it is what it is. And on top of it all, Winnie, we all had bronchitis when we were pitching, except for my 7-year-old. They sound like me now. Pardon me. And so, how do I prepare? That was a great question. I'm just going to touch on that really quickly. If I could give any tips on pitching, and I actually do a workshop that you can find on Elaine's Kitchen Table, which is my podcast, but my website is elaine'skitchentable.com. I do offer a course that I talk about how to pitch. And the reason I have a podcast is because over the years, so many people, I know exactly when auditions are for Dragon's Den and Shark Tank because our voicemail and email fill up with people asking, how do I pitch? What do I wear? How do I evaluate my business? What do I say? What do I bring? And so my husband's like, Elaine, I know you love going out with complete strangers to help them, but it's like 3 hours each time with a complete stranger several times a week. And it's hard when I have 3 children and several small businesses. And so my husband's like, start a podcast. So I do cover it all also on my podcast. But if I could give some quick summary right here is, and it's not cliche, but know your numbers, right? Know what sales you have done, what purchase orders are coming, what your cash flow looks like, what your exit plan might look like, what your 5-year plan is, what your 3-year plan is, what your 1-year plan is, so that you have all these things to prepare and present. You want to be able to share what the existing problem is that you are solving. And you want to open with that and grab them right away. Make sure it's relatable to them, that they care. Because if they lean back, they're probably not so interested, but you want them to lean in because they care too about this existing problem. Then you're going to share your solution. Oops, and not just your solution. Someone also has their mic on. But I'll just keep sharing. Hello, Noah. But so you also want to share why your solution is different and unique and capture them and why they want to be a part of it. Pardon me. And so when we went to go pitch, we arrived early. So we were there definitely before 6 a.m. in the morning. And they had us do a pre-setup on a table because they want to know what it's going to look like for television. And I remember we had to set it up like we were going to set up for the show. And then all of a sudden, an entire team of producers came by, walking around to look at every table. And they said, oh, no, you can't use any of this. And I thought, what on earth? What? I'm like, I need to show my product. And at that point, it was because my product was in a different package where I had plastic and was very reflective. So, of course, being an entrepreneur, as a teacher and a mom, you have to think quick. And I asked, they gave us each a crew member to help us. And I said to my crew member, can you please get me some tape, Scotch tape? And so he ran and found me some tape. I took apart all my packaging and reversed it. So I took out the insert and taped it on the outside of all boxes, all before I had minutes to go on. And to add to that my family was sick. My 2.5-year-old threw up all over the floor. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I got down on my hands and knees and I wiped it up. It scared the entire crew like I brought in an elephant that just pooped. And so I wiped it up and I got up and I said, well, it can only get better. And so we were preparing. If you ever watch the show, you have to go up these stairs to come down the stairs into the den. And I remember talking to my children, and I was telling them, you know, don't touch your face, don't pick your nose, don't do anything, just hold my hand. And of course, there's 3 of them. I only have 2 hands, but my husband was there too. And I remember holding my son, who's 4.5 years old, his hand, and he was squeezing my hand, and I was squeezing his hand. And then I looked down at him, and he said, "Mommy, I'm not scared of dragons." And I'm like, oh, I'm like, don't be scared, even though I wanted to like throw up myself. But we did go into the den. And, you know, I was just praying that nobody would trip and fall down those stairs, because although it would make great television, I really did not want that to happen. And Winnie, you're absolutely right. They all had very stoic faces. As we entered the den, we all had smiles. I had adorable children, but none of the dragons cracked a smile. They were all very serious, very poised, very professional, and no one smiled. I had no idea what we were supposed to do, because I thought maybe there would be a director in the room saying, go or talk. But there was nobody to be seen except for the dragons sitting in their thrones. And my table had a cloth over it. So I didn't know if I was supposed to start, but I just went into action. I pulled the cloth off and I just started to talk. And I will say right before then, Arlene did be the first to speak. She actually did crack a smile, and she said hi to my kids. And that was really, really kind of her. And so that did start the ball rolling. And then I did start speaking. And we were told that we would have anywhere between 5 minutes and 45 minutes in front of the dragons. And we were in front of them for just under 50 minutes, under an hour. And we were also told that just because you're invited to the taping of the show does not mean you will get airtime. Because if it's absolutely boring, and even though you get a deal and it's not television worthy, it will not air. So I think a lot of people's main goal is to air in front of millions. So we did have the honor and blessing of securing a bidding war, actually, between all 5 investors. If you wanted to see that pitch, we did air back, oh gosh, I want to say 10 years ago, and we had 3 updates since. And we were named one of the top 5 most heartwarming pitches in the history of the Den. So we have been blessed with lots of reruns because of that. And that is a blessing, because that's a commercial that I could not afford. But we definitely see the flux in orders online when there are reruns being aired. And the craziest rerun was when my husband and I were on an airplane, and it was on every single screen on the airplane. And that was really crazy. And I remember just drinking in my seat, not that anybody would know it was us, but the guy beside us asked if he could take a picture for his Twitter feed. And so that was fun and very funny. But we did choose 2 of them to be our partners. And they say that.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Elaine, you take a little bit break to have some drink, and then because to I know you're a little bit sick today, so we're even more feel grateful for have Eileen here to even, it's hard for her to express that because it's such a exciting moment at the time. And also what I learned just from last couple minutes from her sharing, I already realized her school teacher's job actually also prepare her for this particular way because she will remember in school many times you just have to use the duct tape behind something and stick it on the wall. I remember I did that for my son sometimes for their school project, and that's what the elementary school teacher showed us as a parents. I have no idea that can be done when you don't have a Velcros or something, stick something on. I believe that's her definitely from her job. And also there's a entrepreneur mentality. It's never in your mind you're thinking I cannot do this. You're always thinking how can I do this?
That's
Because
right.
you frame that question completely different than the people who don't have the entrepreneur mindset. So I love that whole things. And definitely if later on after this, if you can share the link of the show, the 3 different ways update in the show to us, we're going to show it through our communities as well. Thank you.
Be happy to do that. Yes, I'm so sorry that I'm just recovering from, I don't know why I'm still sick. But yes, just, I love how you worded that, Winnie, is when you're an entrepreneur, like you don't take a rejection as in no, and then you pack up your bags and you leave. You're like, okay, thank you. Let me figure out how I can do this. Right? It is how can I do this? What is and it's great actually when you're in business and you hear rejections or negative feedback, you be grateful. Be grateful for it because it helps you to narrow down to figure out a better way to figure it out, right? If doors didn't close, then you'd just be open-ended and have no solution that is going to be the best solution. And so yes, what did we do? So yes, we did do that. We did go on Dragon's Den. We people say, "Oh, is your life easier because of Dragon?" No, I people are like, "Oh, you're probably not going to bed at 3 a.m. anymore." In fact, that was true. I was going to bed at 5 a.m. now, and still working harder. And people think, "Oh, because you go on Dragon's Den, you're sitting on a yacht." No, I'm the person peeling the potatoes downstairs. in the basement of the boat, trying to figure it out and making it work better. And so, with the journey of Easy Daisies, eventually I did have to stop teaching full time and focus on Easy Daisies. And I have done the route of distribution and also of licensing. So it has been a continual journey for sure. There's lots of pluses and minuses to each and just a crazy journey. But I'm going to leave it to questions from you, Winnie, because I can talk for a long time and I don't want to do that to you. So throw some questions.
Yes, so that's the part I feel many people thinking when people see the glamours of a business owner or, oh gosh, you own a big company or your product everywhere we can see. Now I know in Staples, in like a Walmart, in Toys and many places that we can see your product. And also I heard other parents, even I share your story with some of my own friends, they all say, oh, I wish when my son was like 5 years old, I have this product. Or I wish I have, when my kids are grade 1, first day to school, I have this product trained it. Many of them was saying this will creating that responsibility at an early age, not only through your product, and it's better for mom and dad to get the kids out of a bed or going to school. It's more like a teaching them to be responsible for their own life.
Absolutely.
And later on, when they becoming teenager, becoming adults, they realize, oh, I have to take the responsibility to schedule my time, right, to make sure whatever the things need to be done to get it done, right? So I'm thinking that's a great starting points for any kids. And I have so many questions, but I like to ask one question is in last 9-10 years, you're running your business. What the one or two biggest lesson you really learn as a person, not just the business owner, but as an individual, what you really learned, and I feel that's benefit you the most to still live how to say the peaceful, or the tranquility inside you, besides those many stressful moments, many things unexpected happening in business, how you can frame that, or whatever your take.
For sure. So 2 big lessons. Okay. Well, I'm going to say that I go by something like, it's called 4 Ps. And if I could share these 4 Ps with you, so it would be your purpose, your plan, your people, and oh my gosh, this is so bad. There's so many great Ps, and I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right one. Okay, I'm just going to start actually. Your purpose. Know what your purpose is. Like my purpose is something like that I want my kids to see, that my family to see, and it's just to be kind and to contribute kindness always. And why I say that is I think that when it stems from a good place, the result is always going to be contagious. Like if you start with cruelty, that will be contagious as well. But when you start with kindness, any act of kindness will breed more kindness. And, that's something I want my children to see. So no matter how tired you are, no matter how busy you are, when you have to make a decision, think of kindness first, and then it'll just go a long way. So what is your purpose? And with kindness, of course, it comes with how Easy Daisies came about too, is just making sure that I can help parents and educators help children have easier days. So think, what is your purpose? Then your passion. There's my other P. Your passion. What is your passion? So for me, my passion is to help kids have easier days. So what is your passion? And I did write a book about this called Sell Your Passion. So when you realize that your service that you're providing or your product that you're providing is simply an extension of your passion, you can't help but sell it contagiously. So I want to encourage people who are listening, because there will be times you are wanting to throw in the towel. I feel that quite often too. And in fact, so think, okay, you have to have passion, because it can't just be about money, because then you might as well close your doors right now. Because when you start off, money is not what comes in, but you have to run on passion. Passion is going to be your fuel, because money is not going to be that fuel, because there isn't any, and it's not coming in as fast as you'd like. So what is your passion? Find it and realize what you're offering is simply an extension of your passion. If it isn't, if you don't see that connect, find something else. You are not in the right business, because it has to be an extension of your passion. And Easy Daisies is the extension of the passion of me wanting to help children have easier days, right? It's not about magnets. I don't wake up going, yay, I'm excited about magnets. It's not about that, but it is the feedback that I get, the emails I get from a mom with 3 children with autism, sharing that she doesn't have to talk all day long anymore because of Easy Daisies, or a divorced dad sharing that they have consistency in both families now because of Easy Daisies, or which makes their children's lives easier, or a foster mom sharing that her kids aren't anxious anymore because they can see and predict their day with Easy Daisies. And the list goes on. That is my passion, and that is my why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that first one is your purpose. What is that purpose that gets you up? Japanese people call it their ikigai. And this is why they have long lifespans in Japan, is because they have ikigai, a purpose, waking up with a purpose, right? And in fact, in Japan, there's no Japanese word for the word retirement. It does not mean that they are workaholics, but they have passion. They wake up with a purpose every day. So what is your purpose? What is your passion? Number 3, P, what is your plan? That's wonderful that you have passion, but if you don't have a plan to carry it out, you might as well just stay in bed and close your doors and windows. So what is your plan? So think about how are you going to convey your passion, which is your product or service, and how will you share it? What is your plan to move it out? So do you have a marketing plan, a sales plan? Are you collaborating with other people? Are you doing 3 sales calls in the morning every day? I apologize for my voice, but I tell people life gets busy. Every day can be filled with busy, useless things. So block out that first 2 hours of your day to deal with money making matters. So even if you're like saying, okay, I'm going to do 15 cold calls or 15 sales calls in that first 2 hours, follow-up calls, whatever it is, right? The follow-up is very important too. So plan. What is your 5-year target plan? If you don't have targets, you're just shooting aimless arrows. So have targets. Make your plan. And that 4th P is know your people. And what I mean by this, sorry, is surround yourself with what I call the triple L crowd. And what I mean by triple L crowd is people who lift you, people you can launch from, and people you can learn from. And this is why I love what Winnie is doing with Vision to Reality, is she is helping people create their triple L crowd. So people you can learn from, people that have done it before you, even if they've done it 5 minutes before you, can learn from them. I always say to people, you can learn from everyone. So never be so proud that you walk into a room and say, I can't learn from anybody. Yes, you can. So you can learn from everyone. So, and you want to be someone who gives back, because if you have done something for 5 minutes, you can help someone behind you who hasn't done it yet. So always be that person as well. So when I say a person that can lift you up, I mean people who can encourage you and people who can motivate you, because it is very easily to be taken down by discouraging people. So you want to remove yourself from that environment and find people who can lift you up and people who can launch you. So that means people who inspire you and motivate you to just propel you forward. So that is what I mean by your triple L crowd. So those are the things that I have learned over the years, because I did not have those. And it took time to find all of those things, all 4 of those P's. And so if you can take any of those and start today, you are well on your way.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, because the 4 Ps, there's many different translations in business world, and in sales, in marketing, in any other areas. But you summarized the one following your own thought process and works for you. So I'm hoping every single person can find their own 4 Ps, whatever move them. And it's really true. You're basically every single day. I remember I read a book said Winston Churchill said we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give.
Beautiful.
So it's similar, like what you're thinking every single day. You're waking up, you're making the product. Of course, you go to your factories, looking at all the shipments going out, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is in your heart. You know this particular product will benefit somebody else. Will give some, helping somebody else, right? Absolutely. Other parents or kids or other people struggling in how to manage their kids' schedules. So I believe that's the purpose. Yeah, that's the one. It's really, really important for any business. If we're constantly thinking we're offering something, helping somebody, and it's really the one people will reward you with financial reward eventually. But you're running more like a wholesale, like a manufacturer and then wholesale. Maybe I'm not sure you have retail or not, but mainly I'm understanding your business more like a manufacturer and then wholesale. Am I correct?
That's absolutely right. Yes. The only place I sell direct is through our website.
Okay.
So it is sold to resellers. like different platforms, like even Scholastic offers our teacher products.
Mhm.
You can find it on Amazon as well. Like so brick and mortar stores.
Mhm.
I don't have a brick and mortar store,
Okay.
but I am manufacturing and
Okay.
distributing. Yes.
Yeah, and now we probably wanted to open up the floor and see if any of our audience has any questions. I have especially have like 5 or 6 questions on my list, but I don't want to be the one always asking. So anybody have questions, either you like to turn on your mic or you can put your question in the chat box. For Elaine, and she not only have her manufacturer, like a Easy Daisy, she also have her podcast, like Elaine's Kitchen Table, and that one also quite famous now, and more people following and listening because there's many good wisdoms showing up in there. So anybody have a question, put in your chat box or open up your mic.
I was honored to have Winnie on my podcast, and it's coming, and so I share many brilliant people. So Winnie, thank you for being on my podcast. We're stronger together, learning from each other and together, and sharing our failures and our lessons learned so that we can help other people. So important, because it can be a lonely journey for sure.
Yeah, and a business is always up and down. No matter how great your idea, how smooth your business running, always something, have issues. But I know you also run into some personal issues. We also have our family, emergencies happening with our loved ones, and there's so many things will happen. And so maybe when other people generating their questions, I have my question here. Just ask you, in last few years, what is the hardest time you went through, and also how you overcome it for that hardest time as a business owner or as a mom,
Yes,
that
great
area.
question. Great question. Well, I have something that just popped up, and so on April 25th, 2019, I had a stroke. It was a big stroke, and it was kind of life-changing. And I did have 7 months of stroke rehab after that. Many lessons learned through that time in my life. It was hard on so many levels during that time, because the blessing of licensing your product and brand is you don't manufacture and distribute. The negative of licensing is you don't manufacture and distribute. And unfortunately, the company I licensed with had created really terrible quality product, and I don't believe they did it on purpose. They had no idea. But I knew, because I was receiving all the emails and messages from people who picked it up in Walmart across Canada. And in fact, the magnets weren't magnets. They were permanently glued onto the boards. The boards were falling apart. It was horrible. And this was happening. And at the same time, I was also launching a test order to one of the largest mass retailers in the USA. And I was launching my book called Sell Your Passion. And I had this stroke. I didn't know it was a stroke at the time when I woke up. And as a result, it actually affected my entire left side of my body. And I couldn't use my arm. I still have a stutter from the stroke, but through rehab, I have learned to control my stutter. Unless I'm super tired, it will definitely come out. And so I actually had to pause my podcast for 2 years because no one wants to listen to someone stutter on a podcast. But I remember that, in the like I was hospitalized for about 9 or 11 days because they discovered it was after my third stroke. And this stroke was on the right side of my brain, which affected my left side. And I'm left-handed, so it was absolutely humbling to have to relearn how to hold a fork again, to write again, and to speak. And so they said I was too young, and they said I didn't have high blood pressure, I didn't have high cholesterol. So they did all these tests and discovered I had something called a patent foramen ovale, which is a hole in my heart between the two atria of my heart, which allowed blood clots instead of being filtered in my lungs to go straight to my brain and cause the strokes. And so I remember thinking this stroke is completely inconvenient as I was in the hospital for so long. And I didn't have a laptop. I couldn't communicate to anybody. And I had all these things that needed to be taken care of. And I learned many lessons during 7 months of stroke rehab. And that first one was to put your time and energy where your heart is. And what I mean by this is from your heart comes your passions and the impact and imprint that you're going to leave on this planet. And so we are so easily distracted by thinking that everything is urgent and important, when in fact very little is urgent and important. So to everyone listening, don't be dragged by thinking that everything is urgent and important, that everything has to be done, because in fact, life is not about getting as many things done as possible. Life should be about getting the right things done. The right things done, not everything, but just the right things done. And so realize what is important to you in your heart. And if it's your family, that is who you want to spend time with, prioritize that as the first priority. And so there's so many stories I could share. And you know, one of the retailers that I reached out to for in the beginning when I started, I guessed at their email. I wrote to them like for 7 weeks. And finally they replied and they said, yes, let's have a meeting. And they told me this is the day we're going to have a meeting. And I was so happy and excited. I ran to the calendar to write it down. And I saw that it was my son's grade 1 end of the year concert at that time. And I wanted to be at my son's concert. And so when you choose the priorities of your heart, this is when you're making a life, choosing to live a life by design and not by default. That means you are making decisions based on saying, I choose to, rather than I have to. Because when you live a life saying, I have to do this, I have to do that, that is not living a life. But when you say, I choose to do this, you will be rewarded. You will feel good and feel peace about your decisions. So today, if I could share anything at all, is learn to live a life by design and not by default, by living by the priorities of your heart, by saying, I choose to do this, instead of saying, I have to do that. So when I chose to be at my son's concert, I wrote back and thanked this gentleman, saying, thank you for this meeting. It's so important to me. However, I cannot because I choose to be at my son's concert at this time. And he wrote back saying, no problem. Please go to your son's concert. Call me right after, or call us after. And so I remember going to that concert, sitting, waving to my son, making sure he saw me. And I ran to my car. And in the parking lot of the school, I called. And the very first question this gentleman asked me was, how was your son's concert? Right there, I knew that his choices were the same core values as mine. And this is the person I wanted to work with. And I'm honored and proud to say that Easy Daisies has been a bestseller at Staples Canada since 2013 because of this call. Now, when I was in the hospital and the gentleman, there was a mass retailer I was shipping out to for a test order. I finally got my laptop after 3 days. I wrote to them. I downplayed that I was having stroke recovery, but I said I'm in the hospital recovering from a stroke. And I apologize for the delay in correspondence. Their one and only question was, will you meet the deadline? I don't work with this company anymore. It was a huge loss to me, but core values is very important. And choosing the priority of your heart, putting your time and energy there is important. So that was one of my hard times. And at that same time, I had to take back my company from a licensing company. And while in hospital trying to find a temporary warehouse. So yes, lots of lessons learned. And I think I shared with Winnie, I feel like I start up again. But so many lessons. And I know time is of the essence here. So I'm going to stop talking.
Wow, that's a great life lessons because right now I believe in V12 we were trying to promoting that intentional living.
Yes,
so it's exactly correlation with what you're talking about. Is you make the choice to do that intentional living, not just floating like a dust or as a
Or being
little
pulled here by-
dinghy. Yeah,
being pulled all
exactly.
over.
The waves through your left and right and front and back, but it's intentional in your heart. You know what your heart desire, and then you're just moving forward. But during that intentional living, I know there's so many things you have to give up. It's not like we can get everything in our life, right? So many things you have to give up. You have to prioritize.
Absolutely.
And then also choose that it's really true. We have to go with our heart. Sometimes we give up money for the people, and sometimes we maybe give up some, business and for our family, but we know that's the right choice. We made that
Trust your
choice.
gut. Absolutely, always trust your gut as well in business.
Yeah, yeah. And I found in my journey, same. If I didn't trust my gut and just keep going, you might feel a little bit not really good, this particular relationship or business relationship. But eventually it will always go bad because the original initial your intuition, the feeling of that particular person, maybe the value not in tune with yours. But just for the money, for the business, I'm thinking, oh, that's a good client, right? We should take it. But eventually you realize you cannot keep the relationship or keep working on. And even that constant lingering actually behind your mind, you feel something not right, but you cannot pinpoint down sometimes. I truly believe each of us all have our values inside. And if we just go with it, go with our heart, it's always going to the right ways. So thank you so much for your time and help for this session. I believe the recording is going to be a bestseller or whatever. And in our YouTube, if you don't mind, we're going to posting that eventually, on our YouTube and to share with more people. I believe many young business owner or existing business owner all need to hear this message, can learn something. I definitely learned from your story today, not only the 4 Ps and also how to always realize what is the most important, if it's not urgent, but it's important in our daily choice of the priorities. That's the part I truly, truly like. If nobody put in questions here, because I know majority of the listener, they're either in middle of their lunchtime working, or they're probably in the transit and driving, and that's the reason it's hard for them to put any questions in the chat box. So I appreciate everybody can come in, join the live session, but majority of them I know they're going to review your stories online. But if you can share with us the link of your Dragon Den, recording, that should be great. So we can end our session here, and I'm quite excited for everybody to understand where we're at. And of course we have a Q&A, but eventually we just, here is our QR code. So anybody wanted to scan our QR code, and the vision to reality definitely is the same value system as what Elaine just mentioned. That's exactly we try to teach all our members, all the people eventually coming into our community to have the same follow their heart, to be a true entrepreneur. They're giving back to their community, giving back to the society at the same time. I also really, really believe you will get your financial reward if your heart in the right place. So thank you, Elaine. And thank you, everyone, join our sessions. I'm really excited to see the post-production of this by our team.
I was honored to be a part of it, and thank you so much. And you have a wonderful organization with such great people, and I wish I could see everybody that's on. And I just thank you so much, everyone, for having me and for your time, and keep moving forward, 1 inch at a time, 1 day at a time. Just keep moving forward.